Been really looking forward to half two today because the Liverpool City region is aiming to become healthier and greener with the hope of becoming net zero carbon by the year 2040. Huge task. And St Helens Chamber, in partnership with St Helens Borough Council and Glass Futures, are helping local businesses to achieve that goal with their Together to Zero initiative. Rachel Willisey, I better check that with Rachel, the pronunciation of her surname, is from St Helens Chamber and can tell us more. Rachel, how do you say your surname?
You got it right, Kevin.
Oh,
It's Rachel
brilliant.
Ability. You got it right. Well
Oh,
done. Thank you.
fantastic. Fantastic. Right, now that we've got that out of the way, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. Very good. Really excited to have you on the show today.
Yeah, really excited. Thank you for having us on.
No, pleasure. It's really helpful because, we've got to do our bit, and there's a lot of people out there that kind of want to do their bit to reduce their carbon footprint, but aren't really too sure about how to go about it. So from St Helens Chamber, can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, of course. So St Helens Chamber is a social enterprise based, as you would guess in the title, in St Helens as part of the Liverpool City region. So we're here really to support businesses and young people across the region to contribute towards everything towards growth and regeneration of the area. So last year we bid in as a partner, as you say, to the Community Renewal Fund, which is a UK government-backed fund and also a Liverpool City Region Combined Authority-backed fund to help places prepare really for the future and try to support people and communities that are most in need. So our bid, together with our partners, was to try and help businesses and young people around achieving net zero for the future.
Yeah.
So a few different ways for us to be able to do that through business support packages. So providing skills training to businesses to understand what net zero is, how they can achieve it, and really how they can strive to be the best within the region and hopefully be competitive for the future in a sustainable business. But also to raise the aspirations for young people in this space through activities with primary and secondary schools to help them understand what career opportunities there are in the future, how they can get into the industries that are going to be growing around net zero and particularly STEM type careers. So offering them activity-based learning and how they can start to engage with the industry more.
Yeah. And in layman terms then, Rachel, because, a lot of people, well, some people might think, they hear net zero carbon and, some people might end up switching off because they're not really too sure about, what it actually is. So what does it actually mean? Can you just explain it to us in layman terms?
Oh, very good question. Reducing our carbon emissions is to help us to have a future sustainable planet. So for us, trying to improve our environment through the reduction of our carbon emissions. So that could be for our day-to-day people, reducing your transport, reducing your gas and electricity by using renewable fuels. And for businesses, obviously, the impact to them is far greater. And how can they start to use different ways in which they produce their energy? But also then look at things like their supply chain. So how do they procure the goods and services in a more effective and efficient way? And also then from a talent perspective, how do we introduce skills to enable products and services to be created for the future, which are more effective for our environment?
Yeah. And I guess it's about making changes, isn't it, to now to benefit future generations. It's a huge challenge, that, isn't it? Because, I can imagine there's people thinking, well, what I do now might not affect anything in the future, but we've got to keep on ramming it home that even the small changes you make now can have massive consequences, can't they?
Hugely, yeah. And I think, as you say, the key there is collaboration. We can't individually do it ourselves, but collectively together we can achieve that. And trying to come together with businesses who ultimately have the biggest impact and trying to give them the support to make those changes, but not just from a change within industry, but also it's a mindset change and it's a cultural shift. So trying to support those businesses with this skills training to enable that shift in mindset and understand what their individual and collective efforts can do and the impact that it can have is really beneficial.
Yeah, and obviously, you're helping local businesses to achieve this goal. How have they received, the training and the response from yourselves?
The response has been really positive. I think that the key shift was after the COP26 conference, which people were seeing in November last year. And
Yeah.
we've seen through a number of our partners that we're working with a huge uptake now after the awareness campaign surrounding COP26 and how people want to, as you say, find out more of how can they contribute. And then once they start to understand the principles, really encouraging that expansion into their businesses. And they can see the business case for this. So it's not just that obligation to support us for a future, an improved future, but also how they can grow and sustain their businesses for the future in this space and become more competitive.
Yeah. I've got a question here, Rachel, about how important it is to achieve this goal of net zero carbon for the local area. And what's caught my eye about that is the local area. I guess, if we all just look at our local area and if we all sorted our own local area out, that would have a ripple effect then, wouldn't it? And then, we'd get to the challenge quicker.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you look at it, you've got local priorities. So within St Helens, we announced our own climate emergency alongside the Liverpool City region's regional priority for climate action. And there's climate action plans both at a local and a regional level, which all of those then contribute to our national priorities. So really, like you say, that those small local impacts start to multiply and have a ripple effect across the region and then hopefully across the UK.
Yeah. So you launched Together to Zero at the Good Business Festival earlier this month. So was that a bit daunting? What was the response there?
The response was great. As you say, the Good Business Festival has had a huge impact across the Liverpool City region, and it was great for St Helens to have a place-based opportunity to promote different activities. So we were alongside some of the major investments that are happening within the borough at the moment, which are really exciting and huge opportunities for us to be able to create an evidence base for future funding and opportunities to support businesses and young people. We saw hundreds of people through the door a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of interest, but again, continuing to raise the awareness. The awareness levels are so inconsistent across businesses and individuals. We've got to continue to raise that profile, and it was a great platform for us to be able to do that.
Right. Okay. It's about raising that awareness, isn't it, and getting people to just buy into it. It's a tough job, isn't it? It's a tough job.
Yeah, definitely.
So obviously education starts at early doors, so you're working with schools and smaller businesses as well. What changes can they make? Because presumably getting to people early doors and educating people earlier on is of huge benefit, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. So, like you say, part of our project is supporting primary and secondary schools and education providers to understand really what this means for them. So similarly to the business environment, but also how can we start to raise aspirations that there are opportunities within these sectors, within net zero type organisations and decarbonisation activities and projects in the future that really can keep and retain our talent within the borough and within the Liverpool City region, and how do we make sure that they are inspired and hopefully want to retain within the area and contribute to our net zero challenge for the future. In terms of SME support, so small medium enterprises, that's really our focus for this support, because we want to be able to see them grow and prosper and continue to be a key contributor to our local economy.
Yeah. And do you know roughly how many organisations have signed up to the initiative so far?
We're able to support, as many businesses and individuals as we possibly can. There'll be 25 businesses getting one-on-one support, and we'll be able to train over 100 people into the initiative. In terms of who's signed up already, we've got a number of the large investors and their supply chain, and some of the key developers currently working alongside us and getting people into this training cohort that will run through April, May and June until the project ends at the end of June. In terms of the primary and secondary school activities, that will be running through May and June, and people and businesses are able to support us in that. So if they're keen to get involved, please do get in touch with us.
Well, you mentioned there, so people can still get involved. So tell us how we can do that. So anybody that's listening and businesses, and we can, obviously we can listen to this again on BBC Sounds and replay it again. How can we find out more about Together to Zero? Where do we need to go to?
Yeah, a couple of different places, Kevin. So, firstly, if you want to visit our St Helens Chamber website, we've got a Together to Zero section. But also look out for our social media posts across Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We've got a number of different links to the activities that are happening and the ways to get involved with the fully funded training that we've got on offer as well.
That's brilliant. Rachel, that's been fascinating talking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time out. And you know, hopefully we can all do our bit, because if we all do our bit, then we'll get there sooner, won't we?
We certainly will. Thank you for your time, Kevin.
Yeah,
Great to
pleasure.
be on.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank
Nice
you.
to speak to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Rachel Willisey is from St Helens Chamber, and we're talking about net carbon. Reducing our carbon footprint there. So, you can find out all of the information like Rachel was just saying there. Together to Zero is the initiative to help small businesses and educate our young people as well about reducing our carbon footprint and making the place or our world a better place to be in. That's what we all want, isn't it? We want it for the future of our kids and our children's children and so on and so forth.